Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Why Is This a Podcast? Nice to see you. I would say, if I could see you. I still cannot because of COVID-19 restrictions and the fact that 2020 is generally a dumpster fire, although there is some good news in that Joe Biden is now virtually guaranteed to assume the presidency of the United States on January 20th, 2021, while Donald Trump has not yet formally conceded the election. There are signs that he is moving towards doing so in effect, with the General Services Administration now approving the official protocols for a transition, which the president himself acknowledged on Twitter, which is about as gracious we're going to get from him. It's nothing new than what we knew at the beginning of the month, but here we go. Of course, the big story is the fact that the Sex Pistols' Johnny Rotten was bitten on his penis by a flea after he befriended squirrels, which I think is the most 2020 news story I could have never predicted. And we'll be doing more updates for you on that because that is my top priority. Sod current affairs. It's the health of Johnny Rotten's penis. But in all seriousness, of course, COVID-19, as I mentioned, does continue to be the major issue of the day. And while there is hope in sight with 2 vaccines showing promise, it's still a bit of a shit show. By which I mean it's still a lot of a shit show. And everybody's been hit hard by this. But some people, of course, have been hit harder than others. And with our governments being what political experts describe as shit, it's actually fallen a lot to us as individuals to step in and do what we can to help the most vulnerable. And I'm talking to a friend of mine today about exactly that, about his efforts that he's planning to help particularly vulnerable segment, the homeless, and also what life is like working in the hospitality industry in a restaurant and a bar during the pandemic. That makes that incredibly difficult. Please welcome to Why Is This a Podcast, Mr. Kallam Mahoney. Kallam, welcome.
Hey, Key, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. I say as if we didn't see each other yesterday, so of course I have to say for legal reasons.
Yeah, it was social distanced and masks were worn.
So anybody who thinks about reporting us, don't you dare.
No, that's fine. We socially distanced. I've got a track and trace box ready to prove it.
Callum, thank you so much for being here.
No, it's a pleasure, Key. And glad to be here.
Obviously, you and we've been friends for quite a few years now.
Yeah.
And I wanted to sort of start off by talking about because you're the assistant manager of the Black Prince Kallam.
Yeah, that's correct.
Before we do get into that, I want to say thank you so much for not wearing a wig.
No, that's fine. You know me. Love a wig and I love a dress.
I always say to guests before they come on, I say, there's no dress code. For you, I had to make an exception.
Oh, I could have come as anything today.
I said to one person, I said, remember, there's no dress code. Just please do wear clothes.
I'm glad that person wasn't me.
I said, I'm making a podcast, not pornography.
No, I thought, well, going on a podcast, I've got to wear the tweed jacket,
Well, I dressed down a bit.
Well,
compared to the other.
Mine's because it was Doctor Who's birthday yesterday, so I thought, wear the tweed. You're lucky I didn't have the bow tie on.
I wouldn't have complained if you had. I'm just glad you're not wearing a wig.
Oh, yes.
I have to explain this to people who don't know you now. Kallam has a bit of a reputation for flamboyance, to put it politely,
Yeah.
in that he constantly wears wigs and dresses. And if I Want to Break Free comes on,
The Hoover does come out.
yeah, we'll leave it there. I don't want to traumatize.
Cut.
It's 2020. They've suffered enough. Yeah. So as I said, assistant manager at the Black Prince. Obviously, UK lockdown sort of shut down the entire
Oh yeah.
industry for months.
Yeah.
And then Wales, we're relatively recently out of the firebreak lockdown, which meant you had to shut again.
Again.
And you also had to shut before, I believe,
Yeah, due to a self-isolation case.
to do a deep clean.
Yeah.
How much are you drinking right now?
Nothing. I've actually got a hot chocolate in front of me.
As a result?
Oh, as a result, I thought you were right now.
Oh, not right now.
You put me right on the spot now. It's like when you go to those job interviews and they say, how many units of alcohol do you drink a week? And you go, well, how many pints is one unit?
I've never understood why they ask you that.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I don't know.
No.
Ask me how many pints I drink. That's where we should really start from.
Yeah.
I'm not good at doing math on the spot. No,
No.
I'll phrase the question. What's that like for you as an employee of a pub and a restaurant? What's that? How stressful is that for you?
It has been very stressful, obviously. Back in March when we first went into the first lockdown, beforehand, as we've only had the pub for a year, things were going really well, as you know. March come, lockdown, and we didn't know what, if we had a leg to stand on. Obviously, we received help from the government, as nearly every pub has, and any other business within the hospitality industry itself. Coming out of lockdown, then it started to pick up, and then the stressful times come when it was table service only. You can go to the bar, and we have, you could be busy, you could have every table booked out, and you're turning people away, which is something we've never had to do before. Obviously, we're looking after the safety of others and ourselves, and I think the most stressful part about it all is the managing safely of COVID restrictions. So wearing your mask, the 2 meter social distancing, and
which we're
especially
going to
when
come on to in a minute.
yeah.
Please carry on. Sorry to interrupt.
No, it's fine. Obviously, it's just trying to manage all of the safety precautions, really, which is the most stressful. And obviously, a lot of people now, due to this, going from the major national, UK-wide lockdown into the circuit breakers, a lot of people I find now are scared to actually leave their homes, or even just to enter, the establishment, even if it was just for a meal, or just to have a catch up with their friends, and I find people are scared now, due to the coronavirus pandemic and the precautions themselves.
Because obviously you can't catch up with your friends properly.
No.
You can't.
Not the way you used to,
You have to be spaced apart. You said have a catch-up meal with your friends. It's like you have to sit at different tables. Effectively. It's definitely not. I think the word of the year, it's not pandemic and it's not COVID. The word of the year is normality.
Yeah, definitely.
Normalcy. Because that's what I hear the most. When are we going to get back to normality? When are we going to get back to normalcy?
Yeah.
And it's like people were hoping, after the lockdown, it'll be then. And then after that, it was like, when we get a vaccine, it'll be then.
Definitely.
It's going to be so hard.
It's going to be a long journey.
Yeah, it's going to be.
And
which is the exact kind of uplifting message that Why Is This a Podcast likes to send out.
Yeah, and it's like you were saying about friendships. Sitting on different tables, it isn't the same. You might have one friend who's going through a really bad time,
Yeah.
who needs, if you like, a shoulder to cry on, but
Uh-huh.
you can't comfort them, and it's not the same, when you're speaking over the phone to them or you're speaking over Zoom to them, because you can't be there to comfort them in the way that they need to be.
So I would love to do this with you,
Yeah,
person to person,
yeah,
face to face. Because if I'm interviewing somebody, as I more often do, because I'm more often in the position of interviewing someone who's in a different country.
yeah,
So obviously this is what this format. I'm used to that. But when there's someone who I know who's like 10 minutes away and I could come down and we could
yeah,
like set up like a
exactly.
camera and a tripod and
And we could have done it in the bar,
exactly.
could have made a little promo video.
Yeah. This is enough of a promo video. You'll have to start paying me if enough free exposure for the Black Prince. Thank you very much.
Oh,
No,
thank
but when it's someone who's local, who
yeah,
I can just we could in normal times, in what I describe as peacetime,
definitely. I
uh,
agree.
it feels different. It's a lot more cold and clinical.
Yeah,
Um, Getting back to the business of sort of running and working in a bar, as you do, to what extent are people the problem in you being able to do your job? Because you've got to, as you said, keep people safe. You've got to enforce these rules. You've got to ask people to sanitize,
yeah.
wear their masks, and keep so far apart, and fill in test and
Basically,
traced.
um,
How difficult has that been for you?
it has been difficult, obviously, when you're having to constantly remind people to wear their masks, or to socially distance. It is difficult, and what we found is the um, common age range, if you like, that we are constantly telling are the youngsters. Your 18 to 24-year-olds. You got certain ones who are brilliant, and then you've got the other ones. Yeah, you're one of them. But then you've got the ones who, if you like, they come in, or I miss this family member, I miss this family member. I'd love to go and see them. And then I think, wait, you're trying to walk around without a mask on. And there's only so many times we can tell them, because what they don't see is the extent that the consequences their actions have for us, not for them themselves, for us. And that's what we're trying to, get into people's heads.
And indeed for people that they see.
Yeah, and I wouldn't wear, I wouldn't walk around the pub willy nilly, if you like, without a mask on and not sanitizing my hands, and then go into my grandparents' house.
I think I forgot to put a mask on since it became the law. I think I forgot to put a mask on when I got up and walked from my table once. And that was a literal error. And ever since then, I've made very, very, very uh,
Yeah, it is.
made myself very, very aware when I put on the fucking mask.
Yeah, it is, and it's because we've spent so long walking around without a mask on, or obviously you've always sanitized your hands in some way, shape, or form, if you like, but you've never had to wear a mask, especially in a pub setting. So it does set your mind sometimes, and you go, oh, where's my mask, or where's my visor.
Yeah,
And
I think people forget as well how difficult this has been for you. Obviously, not just the fact that you had to close for numerous stretches of time,
yeah,
um, but with loss then of income and
it's
w-
been a roller coaster. I think that's the best way to describe it.
but people also forget, I think, that your job now has become so much more complicated that you've got to have you've got to field the calls where people have to phone and book themselves in. You've got to obviously walk around in your PPE and
Yeah.
visors, masks, and whatnot. You've got your job has become so much more complicated because of
It's,
this.
it's non-stop, you know, it's not even just like go on with a phone call. Even if we're not in work, we're getting, you know, messages on Facebook. Obviously, because we're from such a small village and everybody knows each other and everybody knows, if you like, everybody's business. It's like Albert Square, this village. You've got to make here is like Albert Square. Everybody knows everybody's business.
I like the
If
analogy.
they can't get through to the, uh,
I'm gonna use that analogy
that's
actually.
fine. If they can't get through to the pub themselves, then they're texting you or they're messaging you on Facebook or, you know, can I book a table for tonight? And I'm just thinking, ring the pub. You know, even if you've got to ring a couple of times, if
It's
you're that desperate for the table, then, you know, don't bother me on my day off. You know, I don't mind doing it, but that's the way, you know, and I know certain members of other establishments feel exactly the same.
yeah, it's I do it's the hospitality industry, the people that I felt the most empathy for because I've been able to work throughout this. I've not had I've not been faced with redundancy or something. I've
No,
not been faced with losing my job. I've been able to work remotely.
yeah,
For somebody who works in a bar or a restaurant, what I got into with Gareth David Lloyd on, I think it was
yeah,
episode 3.
free.
I'm glad someone's paying attention.
Well, not too
Um,
bad, I gotta admit.
thank you. Um, you know, I said like in the arts, it's not the actors and people so much that they're the ones that people think about, but it's you forget about like the makeup artists and the
Yeah, you know,
technicians and the designers, even the people who man like the food and drink
yeah,
kiosks.
and
So you know, and then you've obviously got the nurses, doctors, medical workers, the frontline staff
yeah,
who have to continue to do their jobs in very unsafe conditions. And I do, that you were the guys that I felt for the most in terms of employment because you're either in a position of you've got to do a job which is putting your life at risk, which is the case for medical
yeah,
staff
yeah, you know,
anyway, but heightened here, or you're in the position where you don't have a job and you
no,
face
and it's,
real financial consequences, and now
no, it
people
is like
are
that for every industry, like, you know, and like you said, the amount of people who have worked through the lockdown. I was lucky enough that I actually worked through the lockdown in a factory, obviously to bring some income in.
yeah,
Obviously, as you know, I got a young son, so I've got to support for him. You know, I can't be sat on my backside. You know, I'm not saying
yeah,
people were sat on their backsides, but I can't be sat on my backside doing nothing. And you know, and you've got the NHS workers who are on the front line, and you know, we all very proud of them and very grateful for what they've actually done for us. You know,
and
and
then we show it by not being asked to wear a mask.
yeah, and that's exactly the thing, you know. During the first lockdown, we had on a Thursday night, we would clap for the NHS. Um, People were proud. They were posting videos all over social media. And then as soon as the pubs reopen or the shops reopen, you've got to wear a mask. They're the ones who are going in and not wearing a mask. And it's hard, you know, for every industry. It has been hard. Obviously, with the hospitality, you've got your hotels, which are not even being booked out anymore. You've got, you know, your pubs and your restaurants who are seeing less income now after the eat out to help out, in which the government obviously had 50%. But it's just been hard. And it's funny that you should say about the staff being stressed, because I was actually reading a story the other day, and it was written by a guy in England, and Boris Johnson had actually visited his pub. So along with this story was pictures of him of Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister, in that man's establishment. And he basically said at the start of this lockdown, before the table service come in, I was glad to have my staff were proud to come to work, and they were doing, you know, 14-hour shifts. and they were proud to come to work, and now they're dropping off like flies because they can't deal with the grueling day-to-day life anymore. It's not just the jobs that we've got. We've got families as well, which we've got to go home to and not show that stress too.
Before we move on to the wonderful thing that's in the works that you're going to be doing for the homeless,
Yeah.
I want to just give me the worst story from lockdown for you in the pub. Just give me. You don't have to name names or give any identifying details, but just give me the worst one. Go on, for a bit of fun, bit of gossip.
I don't know. It's just lockdown's been weird for everybody. Obviously, as I stated, it's just telling everybody. But I can't think of any. It's not that.
Like
It's not the same.
bad behavior.
Bad behavior.
I've
I really can't think.
I mean, I've not been perfect during it. None of that. I don't think any of us have been.
Oh no, even though we're socially distanced, we still have a bit of banter across the tables. But I can't think of any.
I think the ones that I hate, well, not hate, but what gets me the most is not the ones necessarily who break the rules,
Yeah.
but the ones who sort of spread misinformation
Yeah.
and lies about the virus.
Yeah.
Because I think actually in the long run that's more dangerous.
Yeah.
I much more. Cause I think like if you don't wear your mask, that's it sounds. It's difficult to phrase actually, but that's
I,
very much like a short-term lapse.
yeah.
As if if you sow like the seeds of doubt in people's
Yeah.
minds, that can have more lasting.
And we have got a couple of members of our customer range who can't wear masks due to medical reasons, which is fair enough. But then
Is
we've
it
also got
highly
members
legitimate?
who refuse to wear a mask because of the stuff they've read on the internet, the conspiracy theories, and well, we know all about that one.
Yeah, we do know about the homelessness is as much as it's a tragedy.
Yeah,
It is horrific, especially during this lockdown.
definitely.
But I suppose one of the silver linings of lockdown is that it's allowed us to see the best in people.
Definitely, and we haven't.
Best in you, because I thought you were a bit of a knob. So,
Feelings mutual.
um, you're doing an initiative, I think, next year called Shoe Boxes for the Homeless. Could you
Yeah,
tell me a bit about that?
they used to. I can always remember when I was in school, going back many years now. You wouldn't tell by this face.
Yes,
That
you are very elderly.
that we used to do shoe boxes for the children in Africa.
Yes.
So you would introduce obviously toiletries.
We did as well, yeah.
Yeah, obviously same primary school.
And in comprehensive school.
Yeah, even though we did go to different camps, and just sending stuff like toiletries out and little bits and pieces that people need for everyday life. And obviously, Ian, you've talked in the past about homelessness. So I thought, why not do the shoe boxes for the homeless? It was only after watching a BBC Three documentary on the homelessness, where you realise that these people, it's not all to do with drugs or it's not all to do with drink. We've got veterans on the streets who have, fought for our country and have basically lost everything due to.
But even people with drug and alcohol problems, I hate when that's used as kind of a slur against the homeless, where it's like, oh, they're druggy and they're an alcoholic and it's their fault. So you have absolutely no idea what people go through
Definitely not.
from point A to this point B, and everybody, no matter who they are, deserves the right to a decent and dignified life.
Everybody deserves to have a roof over their head, or at least a warm meal and a cup of coffee, especially in these months now where it is absolutely freezing outside, to keep warm, to survive.
Which takes everybody.
anybody could become homeless. Myself included, and yourself. All it takes is one little mess up, or it could not even be our fault, and we end up on the streets. Um, and I think, like as you said, before lockdown, there was a lot of people who ignored the homeless on the street.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, when I was 18, 19, I was one of them, and I won't probably jeopardize my case here, but I was one of them, and now it's I think
That's
the problem nowadays is so many people realize that if they need to make quick cash, begging is the only option. So you have got to. I know it sounds bad, but you have got to pick out the true homeless, if you like.
yeah.
Not the people who are walking around with nicer trainers or nicer Doc Martens than you are, or a nicer t-shirt or a stylish t-shirt.
Yeah. I mean, as you know, obviously, I lived in London for
Yeah,
for a bit. I've been to New York. I've been to many cities. Even just down the road, figuratively in Newport. But the most disgusting thing I ever saw in terms of the homeless. There was this young girl. You could see she was desperate.
yeah,
She looked she looked ill, and she was very desperate. She was asking people for money. Um, I didn't have any cash on me at the time. I didn't have my bank. I don't think no, I can't remember. It's quite a while ago now. But she was, asking people for money, and you had these like 4 or 5 guys who'd gotten off the train, walking past her, and she was just saying, "Can anybody spare any,
yeah.
cash?" And this bloke went to her, "Do you have change for a quid?" And walked away from her laughing.
But
Uh,
even just
eh,
a pound goes
I'm
a long way.
I'm just there thinking, how many shades of disgusting do you have to be?
Yeah. But even just a pound goes a long way. You don't have to be a big spend. You don't have to walk past them and give them a £20 note or a £50 note.
No,
Any small change always contributes. Even because the amount of people who I've spoken to who say, "Oh yeah, they just use it to buy their drugs or to go and buy cigarettes or alcohol," you know, and depend on other people to buy them food. A lot of these homeless people actually save up their money, not only just to have food, but also be able to afford a night in a night shelter
yeah,
or um, to get a little hotel room just for a night, just so they can have a wash and a shave and that
yeah,
sort of
yeah,
thing. I know in Newport, they did have the homeless pods, where there was a bed. It was only a simple little, um, setup, little structure where you had one plug where you could charge up your phone. So they were trying to push for the homelessness, obviously, to be able to gain access to mobile phones in order to get access to jobs to
yeah.
to better their lives, so they're not sleeping on the streets. But I'm positive that those pods are now gone. I'm positive they're down in Cardiff now. They moved them from Newport. But I used to live in Newport myself, and there is a high number of homeless people on the streets in Newport. And I'm positive probably more than at the moment than there is in Cardiff town centre, because
Yeah,
Cardiff is
yeah, I know a number of
good,
people who have experienced homelessness as well. I'm fortunate I've never had to.
No, touch wood, I've never had to, I never will.
I'll touch wood on that too. But I mean, shoeboxes for the homeless, honestly, it sounds like a wonderful idea. I'd love to contribute.
Yeah,
Um, to you people watching, first of all, thank you. And second of all, if you know Callum and want to support this great work that he's doing, you probably know how to get in touch with him, but you don't even have to do it through Callum. You can either do a similar thing yourself, or you can make donations to charities that support people
definitely.
who are experiencing homelessness, whether you're in Wales and you support Shelter Cymru, or if you're England, Scotland, Northern Ireland. But even if you don't have the financial resources to support the homeless financially, just don't be a dick to them. They left that one out of the Ten Commandments, but I think it goes without saying. I don't think God had to write that one down for you. Well, Callum, before I let you go, I promised you this. As anybody who knows Callum and I will know, we are both massive Doctor Who fans. And we occasionally challenge each other to a quiz. I didn't tell Callum about this when I invited him to do this. He's known about this for roughly about, 40 minutes?
Yeah, 40 minutes and still haven't thought of a single question.
So, we're going to have a Doctor Who off. I will start the question. We'll have 5 questions each.
Yeah.
Whoever wins, and it's on you. It'll be on YouTube for the world to see. Question 1. In Dark Water, Season 8, Episode 11, what's the name of the Doctor who maintains Missy's heart?
Dr. Chang. This is kind of obviously it's New Who, but it's just general Doctor Who knowledge.
Right.
How many pilots is the TARDIS originally designed to have?
12.
Is that your final answer?
Should it be?
6.
In Season 3, Episode 2, The Shakespeare Code,
Yes.
how does Lilith kill the bard? The bead.
She drowns him on dry land. Season 1, Christopher Eccleston's run, which is one of the finest seasons since the revival.
Yes.
What is the name of the home planet of the family Slovene?
Axicoricophalopatorius.
Yeah. I could be nasty and ask you to spell it, but...
In Season 1, Episode 11, Boomtown,
Yes.
what 3 ways does Margaret, the Slovene in that episode, try to kill the Doctor when they're having dinner?
Poison the start of the arrow out the finger. Poison the start of the finger. She can release toxins in her breath.
Yeah.
And she also tries to poison him with powder out of a ring in his glass of wine, which he swaps around.
Alright, I've lost at this point, but go on, ask me a final question before we go. Let me see if I can reclaim some dignity.
What is the name of the estate where the family Tyler lived? Tyler family lived, not a family Tyler lived.
Powell Estate.
Powell Estate, yeah.
Powell Estate. I want to continue until I win, but I think we'll be all day. And both of us have to go to work at some point.
Yes.
Well, I concede defeat. Callum, absolute pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for being here. Thanks so much for being here.
No, thank you for inviting me on and speaking to me.
Shoe boxes for the homeless rolling out next year, I believe.
Yeah.
Well, the pub is the Black Prince. The man is Kallam Mahoney, the reigning Doctor Who champion and Superfan 2020.
Oh yeah.
As if this year couldn't get any worse.
But good news, John Bowman is back.
Spoiler alert.
Oh yes, sorry. Spoiler.
The damage is done. Why is this a podcast? I'm Kerean Watts. I'm your host. Thanks to Callum, obviously, for being here. Thanks to you for watching. Thank you, everyone. Join us next time, won't you?